was another deadly night in the Middle East as missiles rained from the skies over Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and Tehran. Early Saturday morning, Israeli warplanes roared into the skies, launching counter-strikes after a new barrage of Iranian missiles lit up the night. Sirens wailed as explosions echoed across Tel Aviv. Iran launched another wave of missiles in response to a stunning Israeli assault on Iranian nuclear and military core. On your screens, in the aftermath of a missile slamming into central Israel, are two latest updates coming in, which killed 2 people, injured 19 and destroyed 4 homes. Israel's emergency services can also be seen scrambling as families flee for shelter. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV broadcast the purported moment a shockwave rocked Tel Aviv, claiming it was retaliation for Israel's Friday attacks that killed 78 Iranians, including top generals and top nuclear scientists. Let's try and get you that map on your screens right now, which was shared by the Israeli Defense Forces a short while ago, that revealed the massive scale of the Iranian retaliation. If you have, let's put that out. And behind the enemy lines in Iran, Israeli forces have claimed and released that footage that claimed it shows their assets striking Iran's surface-to-surface missile launchers. Iran now vows a crushing response. Its IRG, Iranian Revolutionary Guards, signaling more strikes are coming. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, warned that more is on the way. The defense minister called Iran's strikes on civilian areas a red line that's been crossed. And in fact, now, just minutes before we started this broadcast, a fresh update has been given by the Israeli defense minister, who said that Tehran will burn if Iran comes out with any more missile strikes. Now, talks between US and Iran are now pretty much in limbo. Casualties are mounting and the world is watching, fearing that this could potentially spiral into a full-scale regional war. And this is what we are going to now decode over the course of the next 30 minutes or so in this broadcast, covering every angle, every aspect of this story. But first up, I want to get a voice from Iran. That is Mohammad Khatibi, who's joining me on the show to tell us which way this is likely to go. While 36 hours, Mohammad, have passed since this entire thing started, since this escalation started. Talk to us about what is now the next step that Tehran is looking to do. Is it looking to escalate this further?
Iran did not start this, and it was Israel that passed all the red lines by targeting Iranian military officials, nuclear scientists, and many civilians have been killed in these attacks. And people here now in Iran are urging the government to give a firm response to Israeli attacks. And before this happened, Iranians were preparing to show up on Sunday on negotiating table, but this right now is continuing, and people see no reason for showing up in Oman, and they are asking the government to respond firmly to Israeli attacks. However, there is a good chance if Israel stops, people in Iran as a peace-loving nation will stop attacking Israel, because we didn't start this and we didn't want a war.
I want to first also get in another word from Mohammad Khatibi, who is with us from Tehran, and then I'm going to get to the gentlemen who are joining us on the broadcast to talk more about this in detail. A lot of this is to do with the fact that there was these talks, the nuclear talks that were going on between US and Iran did not make any progress whatsoever, which is why Israel felt that it had to respond, because some of the reports suggested that Iranian nuclear pile was very close, in fact, to being able to make a weapons-grade enrichment and very close to actually having the bomb. Before I get to you, gentlemen, I want to get that word in from Mohammad Khatibi to tell us what is the thinking right now in terms of the Trump administration. All right, let's get in the guests first, and then we also get in Vishal to talk to us about what is the kind of retaliation that one really saw, because at the end of the day, this is what the conversation should focus on, that the potential retaliation that will come in, how will Israel handle it, and if it does, what is the next course of action likely, and will that escalate into another chain reaction? But Dr. John Harrison and Dr. James Dorsey with me on the broadcast right now. Let me get in their first reaction, and then I get in Vishal to talk about the kind of weapons that and drones that Iran used and how successful was Israel in thwarting that. Dr. Harrison, your first thoughts on how this is likely to pan out going forward. More strikes are likely to come in. That's what both sides have vowed. As the day begins there's a fresh alert that has been given, a warning that has been given by Israel, saying that if more strikes come their way, then Tehran will burn. Clearly, no side is willing to now back down out of this.
At the moment, no, it doesn't appear to be that either side is willing to try to de-escalate. There's reasons that both sides would not want to at this point. It doesn't appear, at least, the first response from Iran was very effective. I believe the reporting is now one person was killed and somewhere getting close to 60 were injured. We shouldn't use the loss of life as whether or not an operation is effective or not. But it does appear that, at least for the first volley, that Iran was unable to launch a major strike. It doesn't mean they can't, but it means at least at the initial stages that the Israeli defenses have been able to absorb most of those blows. But again, you shouldn't read too much into that, because it's not clear whether Iran has the capability at the moment to be able to strike at the level that they would like to, or it's just that they weren't able to organize as quickly as they would have liked, because the Israelis did obviously engage in a decapitation strategy. And there have been some other things that may have been able to successfully blunt any first strike. Certainly, neither side seems to want a wider regional war. But right now, the only tools Iran has to be able to respond to this would be their own missiles and drones that we've seen last night and we'll probably see for the next couple of days. And also, the only real effective proxy they have left is the Houthis. And there have been some reporting that the Houthis may have begun firing at least a small amount of missiles towards southern Israel. That remains unconfirmed, but it would seem to be the most logical approach for what assets Iran has left.
See, I want to ask you this. There's been a lot of commentary that's coming in from the Trump administration as well. Within 12 hours, first the Trump administration, in fact, Donald Trump himself said that this attack should not be done by Israel. Then he followed that up by saying that these are excellent attacks. He also made comments saying that 60 days is the time frame that Iran had, following which there will be nothing left to protect. Those were the kind of tweets that came out, the messaging that came out from the Trump administration. Given the fact that US is playing a very central and pivotal role as to ensuring that this remains contained, this doesn't escalate further, how do you see this is likely to pan out? Dr. Dorsey.
I think basically, let me come back to your first question, if I may, because I think I differ a little bit with Dr. Harrison. Iran has essentially three options, given the fact that it has no effective air force, it has no real navy, and it has no land border with Israel. So missiles and drones are its first line of attack, if you wish. Iran has one of the, if not the largest, arsenal of missiles in the Middle East. How many are left after Israeli strikes, we don't know, but nonetheless, they've demonstrated the capability to use them. So that's going to be one line of attack, and I don't think that the warning by the Israelis of burning Tehran is going to dissuade the Iranians from using their missiles and drones. Their second line of attack, and we don't know how that's going to work out, is targeting U.S. facilities and bases in the region. Again, we haven't seen that happen. The Iranians have suggested that that is an option. And then it will depend on where and when and how they attack, what impact that would have, and whether or not that would force drag the United States into the conflict. And the third line of attack are indeed what's left of Iran's non-state allies, But we've seen attacks by the Houthis repeatedly on Israel, and those are at best pinpricks.
If there's an attack on American forces or American assets, it would most certainly force America's hand, because then it will have to react. There is there's the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. There is a large Air Force presence in Qatar. Add to it the ground forces in Iraq and Syria and several other assets that America has. If any of that is attacked, quite naturally, Trump administration will have to take that hard call that it will have to get involved in this in some format or the other. John Harrison, is that something that Iran is prepared for? Because I'm sure they would have done all scenarios here at this stage.
Correct. It seems highly unlikely that Iran would want to attack U.S. installations in other members of the Arabian Gulf. It is unlikely that Iran would want to widen the war. They're getting a lot of potential benefits from opening up economically, trying to downgrade tensions in the region. Certainly, they may. There are a number of things you could speculate on what they might want to do with the Straits of Hormuz in that, but I think it's highly unlikely that Iran would directly assault U.S. bases, because there's far more possibility that local Emiratis or Qataris or others would be hurt and killed, and that would require a response from these other nations. So I think if there's going to be any strike against U.S. interests in the region, it would be highly unlikely that it will be directly connected to Iran. Iran has other assets, and there may be other reasons and other groups that would want to, but it doesn't seem like it would be very beneficial for Iran to engage in that. And I don't think Dr. Dorsey and I disagree really on what Iran's capability, what Iran's strategy might be. And I think what we don't know, at least from the open source, is certainly for the missiles and drones what they have left.
I understand, sir. I think a lot will also rely on how much America is able to ensure that Israel exercises some restraint as well. I think that is also going to be extremely important and will test the Trump administration. I want to quickly now get in some updates regarding that is coming in. As I said, through the night, these attacks continued, and now as the morning has begun, fresh updates are coming in. I want to address that and then get in my colleague Vishal to tell us the kind of attacks that actually took place. But before that, viewers, if you're tuning in right now, Iran has warned the US, UK and France that their military bases and ships will be targeted if they help block Iranian missile and drone retaliation for Israeli attack, threatening a possible widening of this conflict. So as I said, both sides have hardened their positions and they are vowing to take retaliatory action and also send out a strong message. This is the latest that's come in, where Iran has said and told US, UK and France that if you in any way come in the middle of an Iranian retaliatory action, then they will hit their assets as well. As the morning starts there, Dr. Dorsey, it looks like things are not backing down, even as the messaging that's coming in from the Trump administration also is that they've, of course, now backing Israel, whatever decision they may take. And another fresh update that's coming from Israel is that they have announced that 9 senior Iranian nuclear scientists were killed in these Israeli airstrikes. It was earlier assumed to be 5 or 6. The figure that Israel has quoted and said is now 9, essentially means wiping out the top nuclear scientists in Iran completely. So to some extent, one would say that Israel's job has been done. They've been able to achieve some of their objectives. But Dr. Dorsey, clearly the objective is far more than that. It is not just about stopping nuclear arsenal. It looks like regime change is where they want to stop.
Well, basically what they have done, let's be clear about this. This was a very well carried out military operation. It was a great embarrassment for Iran because it signified what we already knew, but nonetheless, the degree of military and intelligence penetration of the Islamic Republic that Israel has. Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, has made clear that this is just the beginning. He clearly said more is coming. It's unlikely that Israel will be capable of destroying the Iranian nuclear program. It is likely, or already has, significantly damaged it and set it back for a significant period of time. But at the end of the day, Iran would be capable of rebuilding that. I think what you heard, and it's actually a strategy that has proven to fail multiple times, not only in Iran, but also elsewhere, that it's the hope that you can basically instigate a popular revolt. That was part of the strategy that we saw in Gaza, and that hasn't worked. Netanyahu basically said in his remarks that this was an opportunity for Iranians to get their freedom. So I think that's correct that there is a broader agenda here. I think that on the nuclear issue, Israel will have certainly a degree of success. On the issue of instigating,
So while we
the
talk
broader
about the
issue to
political
which,
landscape of Iran, there are deep divisions in the Israeli political landscape as well. So at some level, this will also test the political capital of the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Dr. Dossi?
I don't think that, yes, there's no question about it, that the polities both in Israel and Iran are deeply divided. They're not deeply divided in Israel on Iran. They may be deeply divided on Gaza, but Israelis, by and large, see Iran as as an imminent and an existential threat. To be fair, the Iranians have done themselves no favors with the rhetoric that they've had and used with regard to Israel, as well as their denial of the Holocaust. But so I don't think that the divisions in Israel are going to be the major issue domestically when it comes to Iran.
Dr. Harrison, come in there on the commentary that's coming from Iran. As I said, just 5 minutes back when we started this broadcast, essentially warning US, UK and France that their bases will be targeted in the region if they try and prevent attacks on Israel. How strong do you see this message in its tone and tenor, and where do you see this in the larger context of the region being in turmoil?
Well, certainly all the nations are going to have to take that seriously. The U.S. has the largest presence in the region, but both the British and the French have bases in other places within the Arabian Gulf. So they're going to clearly take that very seriously. But the reality is that if Iran wants to do that, they themselves will be putting their regime at risk. Part of what the Israelis seem to be trying to achieve in the regime change is that they have made it very clear that the threats that they have been dealing with the last decade, 20 years, are emanating from Iran. And you can debate whether that is the case or not. But if Iran is looking to achieve a nuclear weapon, and that would be about regime protection, many countries in the region would be concerned about that because it gives them an ability to, the Iranians, an ability to be able to sort of deflect any responsibility for proxy attacks and other things.
But do you see,
so if Iran is going to be...
But do you see this conflict seeing the role of some of these other leaders in a larger way? Do you see America, US or France, any one of them getting dragged? This commentary is important in that context as well.
Certainly, and the U.S. Has already said that some of their anti-missile assets in the region have engaged with that. But you've also got other countries in the region who have told Iran that their airspaces are closed, so that their missiles can't go through. So there is a lot of concern, obviously, in the region. There are many countries that are trying to figure out how to respond, and it is up to certainly both combatants to try to make sure that if they don't want the situation to spiral out of control, that they begin to take measures that would try to prevent that. And certainly the rhetoric from either side is not, at the moment, certainly does not seem to be indicating that is an intention.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this important story that we're keeping a very close watch on. I want to now play out sound bites of the Israeli Prime Minister and Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei to tell you viewers who are tuning in right now the seriousness of this conflict and the potential that it has in terms of engulfing the entire region in a larger conflict. Listen into those sound bites. right, viewers, before going into that break, I had said that we are going to hear those important sound bites of Prime Minister Netanyahu and Iranian leader Khamenei on which way this war is likely to go, how much are they likely to now retaliate and escalate this regional conflict, and whether and all it will mean other players, world leaders, being forced to step in. All that you will get a sense of by listening to the sound bites of these two leaders.
Tonight I wish to speak to you, the proud people of Iran. We're in the midst of one of the greatest military operations in history, Operation Rising Lion. The Islamic regime, which has oppressed you for nearly 50 years, threatens to destroy my country, the State of Israel. The objective of Israel's military operation is to remove this threat, both the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat to Israel. And as we achieve our objectives, we're also clearing the path for you to achieve your objective, which is freedom. In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way.
شهادت سرداران و دانشمندان عزیز که البته برای همه سنگین است و تعدادی از مردم غیر نظامی رو به ملت ایران به خانواده های اونها تبریک و تسلیت عرض میکنم. و اما مطلبی که مایل بودم با ملت عزیزمون در میان بذارم اینه که رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد، خطای بزرگی کرد، غلطی کرد و عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد به توفیق الهی. ملت ایران از خون شهدای گرانقدر نخواهد گذشت، از تجاوز با آسمان کشورش صرف نظر نخواهد کرد.
Viewers, as we wrap things up, there's a very important update that's just come in, which is that the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency has said that the damage to their nuclear facilities has been very limited. And that, viewers, should give you an idea about which way this war is likely to head from here. On that note, a quick break. We return with more stories and updates on the other side. Stay with us.